Another day in the apocalypse that is Chelsea Football Club. What's going on, people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well, man. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, the daily series here on Football Therapy where I talk about Chelsea news. Hey, guess what? I've got a new logo, I'll still be using the avatar of me going like this in places around my channel, but in terms of the actual logo, badge, avatar, motif itself, I've got a new one. You've probably seen it on the channel, but I'll put it here. Ding. Pretty cool, eh? Do you want to subscribe to Football Therapy? New logo, new vibes, man. Daily content, you might dig it. Consider subbing. Hey, if you subscribe, make sure the bell notifications icon is clicked because it's important. Also, feel free to drop a like on the video. It helps me out a lot as we stroll on into today's Chelsea news video. Yeah, let's get into it. First story, hot topic, totally in vogue, Chelsea's managerial situation, Frank Lampard. Now, although many people speculated that his time is imminently done at Chelsea, he might still just be walking the tightrope rather than already falling off it. Now, you know me, I would love for the fairy tale of Frank Lampard, positive Chelsea managerial career to come true, and I feel like we achieved that part 1, season 1, but the sequel is becoming oh so more turbulent as every day goes by. I am worried. Yeah? Now, loads of news stories were breaking saying Frank Lampard's successor could be a German-speaking coach, whether that's Rangnick, Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Hasenhüttl, Germans. Apparently Chelsea remain reluctant to hire an interim manager. Not just because interim managers are a difficult thing at the best of times to try and settle a ship, especially if you don't know the club. And I don't think we can wheel out Guus Hiddink yet again to be the interim manager again. So Chelsea are reluctant, and more so this season because we live in the 2020-2021 apocalyptic destruction world of a pandemic. Games every 3 days, a coach would come in, no time on the training pitch, no time to prepare for games, no time to have conversations with new players, no time to evaluate the data from the analytics. It's just, you know, really, for that to happen, it would have to look like the players just completely don't want to play for Frank Lampard. Although they're looking rather demotivated, I must say, it would have to be a complete catastrophe, and I'm not sure we're there yet. And really, I think there are people at the club that think Frank Lampard can turn it around, or at least want to give him a bit of time to turn it around with a few more games. That in mind though, even if they think he can see them out to the end of the season into the summer, that doesn't mean that Chelsea Football Club won't be considering a change at that point. Maybe bring someone in, thank Frank Lampard for his services at Chelsea, 2 completed seasons, hopefully they could sell it as a PR mutual agreement, and save face a little bit, and then whoever the new man is gets a little bit of pre-season time. That would still be a little bit sort of painful for me as a Chelsea fan that adores Frank Lampard, but it's a business, and at the end of the day, you need to understand that. But, you know, ideally, in between, as unlikely as it feels, you'd want to have this sort of revelation that Frank gains this second wind of confidence, instills it into his players, they play like they were at the beginning of this season, and suddenly everything's okay, and everyone's better for this difficult, turbulent time, and, you know, really grow from it, because growing pains, teething issues, and other expressions like that hopefully describe the situation. But it's looking unlikely if I look within my heart. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart. Anyway, Thomas Tuchel obviously is an available German coach that could slot right in. He speaks fluent English. German, obviously, as he is a German, and of course French from managing PSG for a couple of years. He speaks pretty darn, fluent French as well. Would you think, Chelsea have important Germans in the shape of Werner and Havertz. Also Rudiger, he wanted to bring Rudiger to PSG, so you think maybe there would be something bonded and fixed there with Rudiger at Chelsea. Fluent English, obviously, we're an English team. And French as well. You know, not only Kante, Zuma and Giroud are French, but we have other French speakers like Azpilicueta in the team, not that he'd need to speak French to them. Anyway, it would be a sort of appointment of convenience, but I'm not too excited by the idea of Tuchel. And apparently Chelsea aren't, well, there's been rumours that Chelsea aren't overly interested, and it's more Tuchel being excited and wanting to jump into the position rather than perhaps Chelsea wanting him. Sporting director at Paris Saint-Germain, Leonardo, has been waiting oh so long to sack Thomas Tuchel in last season as well. The only reason why he didn't in the summer is because they reached the Champions League final and he thought it wasn't the best look, but they've been waiting to get rid of Thomas Tuchel for a long time, as has a lot of the Paris Saint-Germain fan base. They wanted him out. He's a bit problematic at times as well. Honestly, personally, if you ask me, I really wouldn't be inspired by that appointment. There's so many alternatives I'd probably prefer, but because of his language speaking ability and his availability, I think that's the reason why Thomas Tuchel's name is being bandied around a lot, probably by other people rather than people at Chelsea. Anyway, that's enough to talk about the managers. It is, funnily enough, the transfer window. So let's move on to the next part of the video and talk about some potential outgoing transfers. So Chelsea are very, very, very unlikely to sign someone to bring someone in this transfer window. They have a good squad and in fact a bloated squad where they need to get rid of players and free up some of the wage bill so the second half of the season we're not wasting wages on players that don't play. And also they'd be depreciating in value, of course. First off, Marcos Alonso. Frank Lampard would be desperate to sell Marcos Alonso. Probably top of his list, in all honesty, trying to get him out the door. I don't think many people want him. That's the problem right now. Like last summer, he played a lot of football the previous season, and you think he would have had some suitors. A lot of clubs actually wanted Marcos Alonso and probably came in for him to Chelsea Football Club, offering some money. But I think Chelsea and Marina Granovskaya, as is her inclination, wanted to wring as much money out of Marcos Alonso as they can. Of course, FA Cup, Premier League and Europa League winner. Granted, the end of that campaign, Emerson was playing. But you know, goal scorer, great record. He should have some value. He's a little bit older now and he's probably going to be difficult to flog. He's kind of looking like a second choice left back at a top team. Someone who wants to buy an alternative that can score goals, or left wing back, that kind of thing. Difficult to flog him though. You know, who's going to buy him? And you feel like he might not try and make it easy for Chelsea, although he probably wants to play football. Either way, yeah, Atletico wanted him, they don't want him. All the Inter and Juve, it looks like their interest has subsided, so it's going to be very, very difficult to sell Marcos Alonso, even though right now he'll probably be on the tippy top of Frank Lampard's list to get out the door. Next up, I want to talk about Fikayo Tomori. Of course, it looked like his deal was going to be finalised to Milan really soon. A loan and an opportunity for him to go and win the Scudetto in Serie A. Really, really exciting. A massive historical club, Milan, and it looks like they're just climbing their way back up to the summit, which is a really, really exciting time for the Milanese. So for Fikayo Tomori, who's been really admired by their sporting director who was at Roma as well, to bring him in to be wanted, to hopefully play. Because if you're being spoken about in glowing terms, you'd imagine you'll be afforded the opportunity to play football. So it's a great opportunity for Fikayo Tomori. Even if he was third choice centre back at Chelsea as opposed to fifth choice, he'd probably still should want to go. You know, even if he was like second, third choice, like rotating in and out of the starting lineup, he should want to go purely because of what's happening at Chelsea. That's probably a bit unfair. Maybe he'd want to stay and support Chelsea, but you'd certainly understand how this opportunity is massively alluring for Fikayo Tomori. Option to buy reportedly for 30 million euros at the end of the loan. That's actually quite a lot for Milan, considering they don't spend that much money and there's a lot of financial crisis out in Serie A. But if he plays well, good young player, maybe they'll buy him. Now there are some other players, like you think perhaps Rudiger might have been in the shop window playing against Leicester. I'm not so sure about that. I think Frank, with Tomori going out the door, I think Frank might actually want to keep Rudiger until the end of the season. But an interesting one I wanted to pose to you guys is Jorginho. Now I actually think it's very, very unlikely we sell Jorginho in this window purely on the premise of it's going to be very difficult to do any business as such is the nature of the situation. But when Frank Lampard started Mateo Kovacic in the 6 against Leicester as opposed to Jorginho, we all thought that perhaps he'd start Billy Gilmour or Jorginho would just come in again because it's a higher profile game. But maybe Frank Lampard is thinking, you know what, in this number 6 role, my first choice is N'Golo Kante. I know that I can trust Billy Gilmour there in certain games, and hopefully his trust for Billy playing that role will only elevate. But he thinks, can I afford to sell Jorginho? Is there a way I can play another player there? Now, we have seen Kovacic playing that 6 role a little bit last season, but bringing him back in such a big game, but obviously I think it was the wrong choice and a naive choice in terms of having a soft midfield. But I think Lampard doing that was testing the waters to see if he can, have those 3 players playing that role. If you've got 3 players that can do it, generally you should be sorted, and then maybe you could be afforded the ability to sell Jorginho, who as a player should still hold a lot of value. I mean, personally, I really like Jorginho as a personality, and I respect what he does as a footballer, and I think there's a lot of value to that. But in this current Chelsea team, if we don't get like a sort of metronomic midfield back like under Sarri, I think perhaps as a valuable asset, Chelsea should sell him. So we'll see what happens there. Even if a new coach comes in, that might still happen. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please do drop a like. It means a lot. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. Other than that, enjoy the football, and I'll see you later.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, bitch.